Taking a trip to the bathroom when you're thousands of feet deep under the water is not as simple and straightforward as you think. In fact, it's so complicated that it even caused an entire submarine to sink, resulting in several casualties too. And what's even more interesting is that the US Navy has had to come up with some ingenious solutions to tackle this problem and keep their submarines operational without risking the safety of the crew. Spoiler alert! Seawater plays a crucial role in solving this complex problem. So let's find out if the US Navy submarines use seawater to flush toilets, and how a small mistake could be detrimental to everyone on board. Just like surface ships, the toilet on board a submarine is referred to as its head out of traditional maritime customs. The head is often one of the smallest spaces on the submarine, and the toilet itself is designed with this in mind. In fact, submarine toilets are often so compact that they can be a bit of a challenge to use, especially for taller crew members. Compared to their surface cousins, submarines unsurprisingly have much more difficult time dealing with mundane operations, including flushing the toilet. World War II submarines were crude affairs when compared to today's vessels. But the old ones and new ones share a common problem. How do you dispose of what gets flushed down the toilet? And what do you use to flush that out? It's worth noting that waste can't be flushed directly into the ocean, because the external pressure will make it travel back the opposite way. Let's not imagine what that would look like for a person trying to flush. That's right, the external pressure at the depths that submarines operate can be incredibly intense, and it can cause all sorts of unexpected effects. Anyway, when you think of a submarine, you might imagine a small, cramped vessel with a little more than a bed and a toilet. Even though that's sometimes accurate, it leaves you wondering what the toilets on board really look like. Believe it or not, these toilets are carefully designed to be as compact as possible, making use of every inch of available space. But what's really interesting is how these toilets work. Instead of using fresh water, which is a precious commodity on a submarine, the flush system is made up of pressurized seawater. Using seawater not only saves on fresh water, but it's also denser, which provides more force for flushing waste through the plumbing system, which is ideal, as you certainly don't want waste to linger around. So how do you use a submarine toilet? Well, glad you asked. First, you open the lever-operated drain valve, and then you open the flush valve and keep it open long enough to thoroughly flush both the bowl and its drain line. Once you're done, you close the drain valve and let several inches of seawater cover the drain valve before closing the flush water. It's that simple. Now, how many of these heads are available on a sub? Well, the number of bathrooms on a submarine varies depending on the specific class and model. Most modern submarines have multiple bathrooms, or should we say, heads. For example, a Los Angeles-class submarine, the most common class of sub used in the United States Navy, typically has 2 or 3 heads. Each bathroom contains a sink, a toilet, and a shower. What about nuclear submarines? Well, a nuclear submarine has 2 bathrooms, one with 4 toilets and 2 with a pair of urinals. In general, there are a total of around 12 toilets and 24 urinals on a nuclear submarine. The toilets are located inside the submarine's head, which is also where the ship's figurehead is located. Then we have fast attack submarines. They usually have 2 bathrooms located in separate compartments, with each bathroom equipped with 4 toilets and 2 urinals. These facilities are designed to serve the needs of up to 100 crew members who are on board the submarine for extended periods of time. And after all, the primary function of fast attack submarines is to carry out military operations, such as pursuing enemy targets and defending friendly forces, rather than providing luxurious or spacious bathrooms. Now let us turn our attention on how waste disposal is actually managed on submarines in such a unique environment. Interestingly, all US Navy submarines have specialized systems for handling waste. The 2 primary types of waste generated on a submarine are black water and gray water. Black water is wastewater from toilets and urinals, which contain human waste if you hadn't already guessed. This is stored in holding tanks on board the sub until it can be discharged safely. The discharge happens when the submarine is at a good distance away from the shore. Ultimately, the wastewater is released into the ocean where it is diluted and dispersed by the currents. In addition, modern U.S. Navy subs are equipped with advanced wastewater treatment systems that can process and treat black water before it is discharged, further reducing the potential environmental impact. Gray water, on the other hand, is wastewater from sinks, showers, and other non-toilet sources. This water is usually treated on board using a system that filters out solid materials and disinfects the water using chemicals like chlorine. The treated gray water can then be discharged into the ocean when the submarine is far enough from the shore. Here's an interesting fact. Even the rather minuscule Titan sub owned by OceanGate had a toilet. Would you use that toilet considering it's in such tight quarters? Be sure to let us know. Aircraft carriers, intimidating and awe-inspiring machines, massive warships designed to project military power across the globe, armed with powerful missiles, bombs, and the ability to strike targets with deadly accuracy. But do you know what goes on down below? Literally, down below? Well, the crew on board these aircraft carriers, just like the rest of us, cannot avoid the basic human need to use the restroom from time to time. This may surprise you, but these floating cities have more than 400 toilets on board. But as one would expect, the maintenance of these toilets often stirs up some trouble as well. The toilets on America's two latest active aircraft carriers, the USS Bush and USS Ford, have been experiencing clogging problems. And the only way to keep the pipes draining is to use special, extremely expensive acid solution. The two carriers' toilet plumbing systems, modeled on the plumbing system installed on airliners, clog frequently, requiring the Navy to regularly service them with an acid, are you ready for this, that costs a whopping $400,000 per use. It's rather tough to predict how often this expensive procedure is necessary, making it difficult, as a result, to estimate the frequency throughout the 50-year lifespan of each carrier. This may or may not make the 50 years of each carrier super expensive, but the U.S. Navy saw this coming. The clogging problems with the new toilet system were well known even before the USS Ford was finished construction. In 2011, the Navy Times reported on toilet issues with the USS Bush, the first carrier to feature the toilet vacuum system, writing that during the ship's maiden deployment in 2009, the ship averaged 25 calls a week to fix the commodes, and 432 commodes on the ship went down twice. But regardless, did you know that just like submarines, aircraft carriers also rely on seawater for toilet flushing needs? It's true. However, using seawater on a massive floating city like an aircraft carrier requires a complex water treatment system to ensure that the water is safe for the crew and does not damage the equipment too much too quickly. That's why aircraft carriers are equipped with cutting-edge water treatment systems that can convert seawater into potable water for drinking, cooking, and other essential uses. These systems use a combination of filtration, chemical treatment, and reverse osmosis to remove salt, bacteria, and other impurities from seawater, making it safe and drinkable. The process of turning seawater into potable water is not only essential for the health and well-being of the crew, but also for the success of the mission. Imagine being in the middle of the ocean without access to clean drinking water. That's why these advanced water systems are critical to the operation of an aircraft carrier. As one would expect, the U.S. Navy has a long and storied history that is intertwined with marine life. While it's unclear who invented the flush toilet, the Navy has been using seawater for toilet flushing on its subs and aircraft carriers for decades. This practice has been adopted by other cities around the world too, including Hong Kong, Singapore, and Tokyo, where seawater is used for flushing toilets due to a shortage of fresh water. Researchers such as Jiangru Zhang of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology have studied the effects of chlorinated effluent, whether fresh or saline, on marine ecosystems. Zhang and his colleagues designed a study that looked at the impact of chlorinated saline effluent on two organisms at the base of the marine food web. Surprisingly, the results show that chlorinated saline effluent was generally less acutely toxic to the organisms than its freshwater counterpart. This was a rather shocking discovery at the time. It's worth highlighting that the U.S. Navy plays a big role when it comes to marine life. The Navy's commitment to protecting the marine ecosystem is reflected in its rigorous environmental policies and practices. These policies and practices are designed to minimize the impact of Navy activities on marine life and ensure that their operations are carried out in an environmentally responsible manner. One of the most significant initiatives undertaken by the Navy to protect marine life is the Marine Species Monitoring Program. This program involves the monitoring and assessment of the effects of Navy activities on marine species and their habitats. Through this program, the Navy is able to identify potential impacts on marine life and take steps to mitigate those impacts. In addition to these efforts, the Navy is also working to raise awareness about the importance of environmental stewardship among its personnel and the public. By promoting a culture of sustainability and responsible environmental management, they're essentially helping to protect the marine environment for several future generations to come. The Kriegsmarine U-boat. Now, this may surprise you, but did you know that a submarine actually sank due to a mere flushing malfunction? U-boats, named for undersea boat, were a German vehicle version of an apex predator, able to move undetected and unleash devastating firepower upon enemy ships. Originally developed during World War I, these vessels destroyed transatlantic shipping routes and could take down ships 20 times their size. Germany targeted military and civilian vessels alike, notoriously attacking the passenger ship Lusitania in 1915, killing nearly 1,200 people. U-1206 was practically fresh off the assembly line and had sailed out of Norway, operating at a depth of 200 feet, when tragedy struck. The U-1206 had a new toilet design installed. It was made to support operations at a greater depth, but a new design is also an unfamiliar one. Captain Schilt decided he had to use the bathroom. After using it, he looked at the design and couldn't figure out how the flush mechanism worked. He called for the specialist that was on board, but he too was unable to figure out the correct way to flush. This was merely because only some of the engineers were fully trained in operating the new design. Captain Schilt then reached for the wrong valve and salty seawater started pouring into the submarine, and the whole battery department was flooding. Do you need us to break down the chemistry for you as to why this was a bad move? No problem. Because this vessel boasted a total of 120 battery cells, comprising 1/4 of the submarine's weight, it could shut down the diesel engines and travel up to 80 nautical miles in complete silence. But when the water leaked down from the bathroom and reacted with one of these batteries, chlorine gas filled the vessel. Chlorine is a deadly poison. Time to air out the boat. Fast. The submarine had to surface to clear the chlorine gas out of the air. Unfortunately, this was during the daytime and a British coastal patrol aircraft just happened to be flying nearby. The U-1206 crew was managing to blow good air in and poisonous and explosive gases out. But meanwhile, they were under fire from the British plane. One man was killed during the aerial attack, and the submarine was damaged to the point it couldn't safely be submerged. All in all, the use of seawater to flush toilets on submarines, aircraft carriers, and even residential areas is a testament to remarkable creativity and resourcefulness. While there are certainly some challenges to overcome, the use of seawater will remain a fundamental part of these vessels for years to come. Before you go, we have an interesting question for you. If you were in Captain Schilt's shoes and couldn't figure out how the toilet worked, what would you have done to prevent the submarine from flooding? We hope you found this video both informative and entertaining. If you did, then please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you will never miss out on amazing content about the US Navy and other interesting maritime topics. Thank you, and we'll catch you in the next one.